In the fading light of a forgotten highway, a single key can unlock more than just a door. It can unravel an entire lifetime of silence. Inheritance is rarely about possessions. Sometimes it's about uncovering the intricate emotional landscapes that generations carefully construct and conceal. Sarah Reynolds stood at the threshold of her grandfather's abandoned roadside motel, understanding instinctively that this moment was more than a simple property transfer. It was an invitation to explore the unspoken chapters of her family's history. The motel itself seemed to breathe with accumulated memories, its weathered facade a silent witness to decades of hidden narratives. Route 66 stretched behind it like a faded ribbon, connecting distant landscapes and untold stories. Thomas Reynolds, her grandfather, had been more than just a proprietor. He was a curator of secrets, meticulously maintaining this roadside sanctuary where personal histories intersected and momentarily paused. Each room held whispers of transient lives, of travelers passing through, of connections made and lost in the liminal spaces between destinations. Photographs scattered across dusty surfaces told fragmented tales. Faces partially obscured, edges deliberately torn. Images that suggested deliberate omission rather than preservation. Sarah recognized the careful choreography of selective memory, her grandfather's method of protecting something profound. Old correspondence with strategic sections redacted, newspaper clippings with crucial details surgically removed, suggested a narrative far more complex than simple family history. The brass key she inherited seemed unremarkable at first, its weight insignificant, its design mundane. But as her fingers traced its intricate edges, Sarah sensed something extraordinary. This was not merely a physical object, but a conduit to understanding the complex emotional terrain her grandfather had navigated. Its metallic surface held thermal memories of countless hands, of moments of connection and separation, of decisions made in hushed tones and quiet desperation. Night descended, transforming the motel into a canvas of shadows and potential revelations. A hidden compartment behind a loose wall panel became her archaeological site of personal discovery. Letters bound with a faded silk ribbon emerged, each envelope a time capsule, each postmark a geographical coordinate in an emotional landscape. The delicate, feminine handwriting contrasted sharply with her grandfather's rigid script, hinting at a narrative of passionate restraint. These letters spoke of a love story constrained by the rigid social structures of the early 1960s, a romance that society would have deemed impossible, dangerous. Her grandfather wasn't just a motel owner. He was a guardian of a love that existed in stolen moments and carefully constructed silences. The key, she now understood, was a symbolic artifact, not just accessing a physical space, but unlocking a complex emotional archive that had been meticulously protected. Social expectations of that era were brutal instruments of conformity, capable of crushing individual desires beneath institutional expectations. Love that deviated from prescribed norms was not just discouraged, but systematically dismantled. Her grandfather's actions were not just personal choices, but acts of profound resistance, protecting not just a relationship, but the fundamental human right to love authentically. As dawn broke, casting soft light through dust-laden windows, Sarah realized her inheritance was far more nuanced than property. She was receiving a legacy of resilience, of strategic silence, of love that survived by becoming invisible. The motel was more than a building. It was a sanctuary of untold truths, a repository of emotions too complex to be easily articulated, too powerful to be completely suppressed. Her grandfather's life was a masterclass in preservation, protecting vulnerability through strategic opacity. Each carefully maintained room, each meticulously stored letter, each strategically placed photograph was an act of emotional conservation. He had created a physical space that mirrored the complex internal landscapes of marginalized love, temporary, transient, yet profoundly significant. In this moment of revelation, Sarah understood that family history is rarely about what is loudly proclaimed, but about what is carefully protected. The Roadside Motel was not just a business or a building, but a living archive, a testament to love's extraordinary capacity to survive, to endure, to exist beyond societal constraints. And now, through her, these stories would finally breathe, would finally be acknowledged, would finally be remembered. The desert highway stretched endlessly, a ribbon of cracked asphalt cutting through sun-bleached landscapes where memories gathered dust like abandoned roadside attractions. On a quiet Tuesday morning, Sarah Reynolds held an antique brass key unremarkable to most, but to her, a portal into a mysterious family narrative waiting to be unraveled. Her grandfather's motel key wasn't just metal and rust. It was a silent witness to decades of unspoken stories. Inheritance often arrives unexpectedly, but this key was different. Weathered and slightly tarnished, it carried the weight of untold secrets, its intricate design hinting at something more profound than a simple door mechanism. The motel itself, a forgotten landmark along Route 66, had been abandoned for years, its faded neon sign a testament to bygone eras of American road travel. What makes an object more than just a physical artifact? In Sarah's case, this key represented a complex emotional landscape. Her relationship with her grandfather had been distant, characterized by awkward holiday gatherings and stilted conversations. He was a man of few words, his past seemingly sealed behind emotional barriers, as impenetrable as the motel's boarded-up windows. The key's journey began decades earlier, in an era when motels were more than just temporary shelters. They were waypoints of human connection, silent repositories of countless transient stories. Each room held memories of travelers passing through, of brief encounters and momentary intimacies, of lives intersecting briefly before diverging again into the vast American landscape. When Sarah first received the key from her grandfather's estate lawyer, she felt an inexplicable sense of anticipation. Something about its weight, its aged brass patina, suggested it carried more significance than a simple tool for unlocking a door. Genealogical research and family archives would reveal a narrative far more complex than she could have imagined. The motel itself stood as a ghostly monument to mid-20th century roadside Americana. Located in a remote stretch of New Mexico desert, it had witnessed decades of transient human experiences. Built in 1952 by her grandfather, Thomas Reynolds, the motel represented more than just a business venture. It was a dream, a sanctuary, a crossroads of human stories. Forensic examination of the key revealed microscopic details that would become crucial to understanding its history. Tiny scratches, metallurgical composition, and subtle wear patterns suggested it had been used frequently, yet with a certain carefulness that implied emotional significance beyond mere functionality. As Sarah began investigating, she discovered her grandfather wasn't just a motel owner, he was a complex man with layers of hidden experiences. Old photographs, tucked away in dusty file boxes, began painting a more nuanced portrait. A World War II veteran, Thomas had built this motel as a form of personal reconstruction, a way of creating stability after years of global conflict. The key's metallurgical analysis would later reveal it was crafted from a unique brass alloy, suggesting a custom manufacturing process uncommon for standard motel keys of that era. This subtle detail hinted at a deliberate, personal choice, not just a mass-produced object, but something intentionally created. Family history is rarely a straightforward narrative. 4. Sarah, each revelation about the motel and the key felt like solving an intricate puzzle. Her grandfather's seemingly mundane life concealed profound emotional depths, connections, losses, and unspoken tragedies that had shaped multiple generations. Archival research and local historical records began filling narrative gaps. The motel wasn't just a business. It was a lifeline for numerous travelers during challenging economic periods. Thomas Reynolds had created more than a commercial enterprise. He established a temporary home for those in transition, a beacon of hope along a lonely highway. Forensic genealogists helped Sarah trace the key's potential significance. DNA analysis, combined with historical documentation, suggested complex familial connections that extended far beyond immediate bloodlines. The keys seemed to represent not just a physical space, but a metaphorical threshold between known and unknown family histories. The motel's architectural blueprints, preserved meticulously, revealed hidden compartments and unusual structural designs. These weren't mere construction quirks, but deliberate choices that hinted at her grandfather's complex inner world. Each architectural decision seemed to whisper untold stories of protection, secrecy, and unresolved emotional landscapes. As months of investigation unfolded, Sarah realized the key represented more than a physical inheritance. It was a bridge between generations, a tangible connection to a history both painful and profound. Her grandfather's seemingly stoic exterior had concealed a rich, nuanced emotional universe. The final revelation would come unexpectedly through a series of letters discovered in a hidden wall compartment, documenting a network of compassionate actions her grandfather had undertaken secretly. The key wasn't just a tool for unlocking a physical space, but a symbol of human complexity, of quiet heroism performed far from public recognition. In understanding the key's story, Sarah discovered something fundamental about human experience, that our most significant narratives often remain unspoken, embedded in objects that seem mundane but carry extraordinary emotional weight. Her grandfather's legacy wasn't defined by grand gestures, but by subtle, consistent acts of human connection. The Roadside motel key had transformed from a simple metal object into a profound narrative instrument. It had guided Sarah through a labyrinth of family history, revealing that inheritance isn't just about material possessions, but about understanding the intricate, often hidden emotional landscapes that shape human experience. In the fading light of a forgotten highway, a single key can unlock more than just a door. It can unravel an entire lifetime of silence. Sarah Reynolds never expected that inheriting her grandfather's abandoned roadside motel would become her gateway to understanding a family history shrouded in mystery and unspoken pain. The key, weathered and brass-toned, seemed ordinary at first glance, just another relic from a man she barely knew. But as she traced its intricate edges, she couldn't shake the feeling that this small object held something far more profound than mere metal and memory. The motel stood like a silent sentinel along Route 66, its neon sign flickering weakly against the desert twilight, a relic from an era when road trips meant adventure and every stopping point held promise. Sarah's grandfather, Thomas Reynolds, had been a man of few words. A trait she now understood was less about personality and more about preservation. Each room she entered felt like peeling back layers of a carefully constructed narrative, revealing fragments of a story that had been intentionally buried. Old photographs scattered across dusty surfaces told a fragmented tale. A young woman's,